Jay Elias, General Legal Counsel at Dyer-Lake Funeral Home in North Attleboro, and welcome to this episode of Live and Learn, a series of programs designed to be informative, educational, and upbeat, and always intended to enhance and encourage our personal wellness and awareness. This episode is about our memory. When you think about your memory, you may think, what did I have for dinner last night? Or what's that person's name who I met last week? And if you're like me and you're trying to remember that name, you start running names in your mind in alphabetical order until you get to the one that fits. For this program, though, as with the other Live and Learn episodes, we're going to dive a little deeper than that. Let's start by thinking of our memories, not so much as trying to remember someone's name or what you had for dinner last Thursday. Let's think of your memories as being the script of your life. Your memories make up your own unique and very personal biography. Think back to when you were a kid riding your bike down the street, the joy you felt pedaling down the road, the sun on your face. Then think about a time when you turned to see something on the side of the road and skidded and fell off your bike, and the pain of skinning your knees and maybe your hands as you tried to soften your fall. As we'll find out, that kind of memory is often referred to as episodic memory. That is, it's an episode in your life that you try to visualize as if you were watching it on a movie screen or a TV. By the way, do you remember seeing the picture of a basket of fruit at the beginning of this program? Let's see if you can remember what that basket of fruit looked like. Was there a pineapple, and where was it? How many bananas were there? Were there apples? How many? And where were the strawberries in the basket? Take another look now. You'll see the pineapple, the bananas, and the apples. There were no strawberries in the basket. How good was your short-term memory? Let's talk again about those childhood memories we have. In one published study, scientists asked children for their very earliest memories, and then they independently asked their parents. What they found was that there were systematic errors for those kids in accurately dating those early memories. The studies suggested that when someone thinks that a memory is from a certain age, say age 4, for example, the event was actually more likely to have occurred at least a year or more earlier. And over again, researchers found that unless someone had what's been called a datable tag on their early childhood memory, they consistently misestimated their age when that memorable event occurred, happening especially if it was before the age of 4. Let me explain what that means. A datable tag is something that objectively assigns a date to a memory, like the birth of a sibling, or the date when you moved to a new house, or your first day of kindergarten or grade school. Without some kind of datable tag, it's easy for the timing of a memory to be misestimated because there's no easy reference point. I may remember falling off my bike and skinning my knee when I was a kid, but without some kind of datable tag, that memory could be from any of the too many times that I fell off my bike and skinned my knees. But then again, my memory of when I first learned that my younger sister was born has a datable tag because that memory corresponds with a set date, my sister's birth date. The accuracy of the timing of my memory is greater because that memory of my father calling my brother and me on the phone from the hospital to tell us that we had a new sister, that can be verified, if you will, by her birth date. Most of us have few, if any, clear memories from the first 3 to 4 years of our lives. When we try to think back to our earliest memories, it's often unclear whether they're the real thing or just recollections based on photos or stories told us by others. It may seem the reason we don't remember being babies is because infants and toddlers don't have a fully developed memory. But babies as young as 6 months can form a kind of memory that may last for weeks, if not months. Infants can learn how to make a rattle make noises or a mobile above their crib move by kicking it. And they're able to remember that touching those things causes a sound or emotion, so they do it over and over again. That's considered a kind of procedural memory. But it's not adult-like because their brains haven't developed adequately to form the processes necessary to have a true working memory or a memory that can be maintained over a long period of time. And that's often referred to as childhood amnesia. There's another element at play, and that's the role of language when we're children. From the ages of 1 and 2, children progress from one-word speaking to becoming more fluent. There are major changes in their verbal ability that overlap with that childhood amnesia period, including the ability to use the past tense, memory-related words such as I remember or I forget, and using personal pronouns, a favorite being mine. It's often said that a child's ability to verbalize about an event at the time it happened helps to predict how well they remember it later on in their life. Studies have also found that when parents or grandparents reminisce with their young children about past events, they are implicitly teaching them both memory and narrative skills. That is, they pass along the kinds of events in the child's life that may be important to remember and how to structure talking about them in a way that others can understand. And narrative reminiscing revolves around the social function of sharing experiences with others, and it helps maintain the memory's accessibility over time. It bolsters the memory of the event and often includes those datable tags or date stamps on events, and even the kind of emotion that's associated with the event and the memory. The more coherent the story, the better remembered it tends to be. Reminiscing is said to be how our past connects us with our present and helps us develop and maintain a sense of our personal identity by weaving together the threads of our story's life through memory. That may be why researchers have found that reminiscing can help enhance our psychological resources, including social connectedness, optimism, self-esteem, particularly among those with dementia. By the way, did you happen to notice those colorful block letters that appeared on your screen just a few moments ago? What was the four-letter word? And which two block letters were the same color? Which letter or letters were green? And which ones were blue? Here you go. Take a look. Hey, have you ever forgotten what you had for dinner the night before, or can't remember someone's name from just a day or two ago, and you thought to yourself that your short-term memory must be shot? The truth is that our short-term memory involves information you only need to recall for a matter of seconds. For example, you've approached an intersection and you look both ways before proceeding. The time it takes to look both ways and make the decision to enter the intersection is what's considered the average amount of time we retain our short-term memory. We're literally talking about memory that lasts for only about a matter of seconds. It makes sense if you think about it. It would be just about impossible for us to maintain every one of our memories over the course of a day or a week, let alone a lifetime. And so it's generally our long-term memories that contain the information that makes us who we are as individuals. It's not just the facts that we learn and retain in our memory, like the names of the planets or the nation's capital. There's also a completely different kind of memory we have. It's called non-declarative memory. And one example is procedural memory. That involves learning a procedure or a sequence of movements or actions like tying your shoelaces, buttoning a button, using a zipper, driving a car. If you think about it, all those procedures require your memory. You don't have to relearn how to button a button or zip a zipper every time you put on a shirt or a pair of pants. You draw on your procedural memories, going back to when you were a child, and learn those things. You may forget what you wore the day before, but you probably haven't forgotten to tie the shoelaces on the shoes or sneakers that you're wearing. And there's another kind of non-declarative memory that's sometimes referred to as emotional memory. Those are memories that involve a change in our approach to or our avoidance of some of our early experiences in life. Those are things that you think you know without having to even think about, like your love of spicy food, or piping hot coffee, or your fear of bridges or snakes. The fact that you don't have to form a new opinion every time you approach a bridge or see a snake, for example, reflects your emotional, non-declarative, long-term memory. The classic example of what's known as our working memory is remembering a phone number without giving it much thought, or your social security number, at least the last 4 digits of it. Working memory helps us understand long written or spoken sentences. It allows us to follow someone's spoken words or instructions or directions without having to have them repeated, every word as they're being spoken. Performing multiple simultaneous tasks requires a kind of working memory. When you cook or bake, you're relying on your working memory to follow a recipe. And just to add to the mix, there are memories which are known as long-term declarative memories. One is called semantic memory, and the other as when you see something in your mind's eye, like a movie of you falling off that bike as a kid. As I said at the beginning of the program, that's called episodic memory. So let's think of semantic memory as remembering factual knowledge that you've learned along the way. Your memory acts a bit like a mini encyclopedia or those old-fashioned flashcards. It's when you know right off the bat that the sky is typically blue. Apples, oranges, and bananas are fruit. And the fact that there are 50 states that comprise the United States. Those are semantic memories. Those memories of falling off a bike as a kid, or your high school graduation ceremony, or wedding day, those are examples of episodic memory. It's the ability to encode and retrieve your daily personal experiences. And it's like watching an episode of a TV show in your mind. And it seems your ability to retain those episodic memories may depend on how emotionally powerful the episodes and experiences were in the first place. The more emotional the experience, the more likely it is you'll remember it for a long time. Many of us remember where we were and what we were doing when 9/11 occurred. That's in large part because that horrific event evoked powerful reactions. The heightened emotional element and the intensity of our focus made it easier for our brains to store and maintain such strong sensory input, and in turn to recall that experience. If I asked you to close your eyes and let's just say picture yourself walking on a beach at sunrise or sunset, could you do it? When you close your eyes, what do you see? For some people, they see absolutely nothing. It's like looking at a blank TV screen or one with static. For them, their memories and even their dreams are tangles of thoughts only, not of any image. It's called mind blindness or aphantasia. It means that someone can see clearly with their eyes, but not in their mind. When they think of a memory or try to visualize something in their mind's eye, they may be able to conceptually understand and recall the event, but they're not able to project any kind of image of the memory in their mind. Researchers estimate that about 4 or 5% of people experience aphantasia, but many more can go through their entire lives without actually knowing they have it. How is that possible? While aphantasia indicates the absence of mental imagery, another 10 to 15% of us are at the other end of the spectrum. They have extremely vivid and photographic memories. They seem real. Their dreams seem real, and it's called hyperphantasia. There were 2 colored boxes with letters on them that showed briefly on your screen just a few moments ago. Do you remember them? What color was the box with the letter B? And the letter A? Let's take a look and see how accurate you were. Now here's a little bit more complicated memory quiz. Try to remember these 7 words in the same order. Cloth, teeth, tooth, moth, soft, thin, thorn. Cloth, teeth, tooth, moth, soft, thin, thorn. And while you're at it, try and remember these 10 numbers. 7, 4, 4, 1, 3, 5, 9, 8, 2, 5. A little slower. 7, 4, 4, 1, 3, 5, 9, 8, 2, 5. Hold the thought. On to the next. We're going to talk about mnemonic devices. They're a technique of different kinds that trace their origins to the ancient Greeks, thousands of years ago, to help them memorize lengthy speeches. Mnemonic comes from the Greek word meaning mindful. It seems that the Romans later adopted these techniques from the Greeks and actually had what have been called memory slaves, known as little Greeks, whose purpose was solely to memorize things for the Romans. Successful mnemonic devices are said to follow 3 main principles. 1, they help you systematically organize the material you seek to memorize. 2, they require you to elaborate on it. And 3, they involve mental imagery. Here's an example of a mnemonic device. It's called chunking, as in taking chunks of something. Remember those 7 words I mentioned, or the 10 numbers? The words were cloth, teeth, tooth, moth, soft, thin, thorn. And the 10 numerals, 7, 4, 4, 1, 3, 5, 9, 8, 2, 5. Well, with chunking, you break down pieces of information and learn them individually or in chunks before putting them back together. It's a memory device. So with those 7 words and 10 numerals, let's chunk them and see if you can remember them better. Cloth, teeth, tooth. Moth, soft, thin. Thorn. And if you think of those 10 numerals as a phone number, it would be 744 135 9825. Mnemonic devices. Acronyms are another type of a mnemonic device. That's when you create a new word or a group of words by taking the first letter of each word or line and putting them together. When I was a kid, I learned the colors of the rainbow by using the made-up name Roy G. Biv. That would be red, orange, yellow for Roy, G for green, and blue, indigo, violet for his last name, Biv. And rhyming acronyms are terrific memory aids or mnemonic devices. Rhyming uses what's called acoustic encoding and auditory stimuli to help you remember information. There's I before E except after C, or when sounding like A, as in neighbor and way. And that brings us to music mnemonics. Putting information to music is a known way to assist retention. Think about how many times you've scoured your house looking for your keys or can't quickly recall your own phone number. That one's maybe because you seldom call yourself, but still. And yet you hear a song on the radio that you have not heard in years, decades maybe, and somehow when you hear the music, you're able to sing along to every single word. It's been said that music serves as the soundtrack of our lives. It's played when we witness major life events and during significant occasions, birthdays, weddings, celebrations, funerals. Music provides important cues to help us remember things. Music is one of the most significant memory cues, able to provide something that words alone cannot. It may be the rhyming words or the beat of the music, or maybe a melody that catches our attention and touches our emotion, unlike the spoken word alone. It could be the breaks and the pauses, the rhythm, the refrain, and the repetition. And repetition is a key element in creating a melody's familiarity and an important element of encoding and etching the music in our memory, and then enabling us to recollect what we've heard. As we hear a song over and over again, it creates another key ingredient for helping us remember, and that's familiarity. It's not just passively listening to music that appears to have a beneficial effect on our memory. Singing and performing music has been shown to reactivate areas of our brain that are associated with memory, reasoning, speech, and emotion. Music not only helps us to retrieve our stored memories, it actually helps create new memory pathways. The beloved singer Tony Bennett passed away in 2023 at age 96 after having first been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2016. But in those later years, although he was often disengaged or vacant in his personal life, when he was in front of the piano or the orchestra, it was different for him. Whether he was on stage or rehearsing at home, as soon as he began to sing or heard the first beat of music, it was the old Tony Bennett again, in full command of his vast repertoire of songs. It seemed that even when other things fell away in his memory and in his life, the music remained. By the way, a few minutes ago, there were 3 shapes in different colors that appeared on the screen. What color was the circle? Here you go. Are you accurate? Have you ever noticed how just catching a whiff of something like freshly cut grass or warm apple pie can transport you instantly to another place and time? Scientists have found that smells have a stronger link to memory and emotion, more so than any other sense. It seems that when you see, hear, touch, or taste something, that sensory information first heads to what's called the thalamus in our brain, which acts as something of a relay station. That, in turn, sends the information to the other relevant areas of our brain, including something called the hippocampus, which is responsible for our memory. But with our sense of smell, it's different. It seems that scents bypass the thalamus and pretty much travel directly to our brain's smell center, known as the olfactory bulb. And that's connected to the hippocampus, and that might explain why the smell of something can so immediately trigger a detailed memory and sometimes even an intense emotion. Scientists have also discovered that memories may actually be stored in a part of the olfactory bulb itself. Scents can bring back memories that might otherwise never be recalled. And it seems that taste plays a role in our memory and our ability to recall as well. But that's likely because when we chew something, molecules in their food make their way to the cells in our nasal passages. And we've come to know that so much of what we consider to be flavor, it's really due to smell. Just try pinching your nose when eating something and see how hard it can be to determine its taste. So can you improve your memory? It's been suggested that there are a number of methods to sharpen your memory. Studies have found repeatedly quizzing or testing yourself, or having others do it with you on things like vocabulary words, that's proven to be an effective memory aid. It's often said that sleep is the greatest legal performance memory-enhancing drug, and one that most of us don't get enough of, but should. It seems that while we sleep, our brains process and store our long-term memories. And during that REM, rapid eye movement sleep, our brain apparently replays memory sequences that we learned while we were awake, except many times faster. And through the REM process, memories are consolidated and stored for long-term use. And speaking of tasks, performing simple math equations, whether in your head or on paper, can help keep your mind stay sharp and your memory intact. Studies have shown that routinely practicing math keeps your brain well functioning. Think of math as weight training for the brain. It can help improve your visualization, tough word, organizational, memory, and problem-solving skills, and may lead to better recollection, faster reaction, and a sharper mind. Even counting your change, or counting things like the books on the library shelf, the tiles on the floors or the walls, the number of window panes, can be easy math tasks which help with memory. Meditation is a technique that involves focusing your attention on a specific activity, for example, on your breath or on an object or a thought. And meditation has been shown to improve memory. The idea is to train your mind to be more aware, present, and calm. Through regular meditation practice, you can improve your attention span and memory, among other cognitive abilities. And one last memory aid, my favorite. It's called neurobics. We know that brushing our teeth helps to prevent cavities, wearing sunscreen helps protect our skin, and physical exercise can help to strengthen our muscles. It seems the same concept may just help strengthen our memory and sharpen our minds. It's often been said that memory, like a muscle, requires us to use it or lose it. And the best brain exercises have one thing in common. They break your routine and challenge you to use and develop new brain pathways. Brain exercises that challenge your eye-hand coordination, your space and time, spatial temporal reasoning, and creativity, the ability to think outside the box, are generally considered to be the most effective. Scientists suggest that you choose activities that are new, challenging, and enjoyable. And so the term neurobics was created and intended to mean aerobics for your neurons. Neurobic is a form of brain exercise designed to help keep the brain healthy and active. It's distinct from other types of brain exercises because it involves the use of non-routine or unexpected experiences, using various combinations of our senses. The idea is to use our senses and emotions in unconventional ways to wake up our brain, to help improve our nerve impulses and the linkage between various brain data. It's been said that this kind of exercise may also help stimulate chemicals in our brain that have a positive effect on nerve cell growth and may reduce nerve cell degeneration. The result, it's suggested, is that neurobic exercise can stimulate other parts of the brain, help prevent a decline in memory performance, and maintain a continuing level of memory performance. The nice thing about neurobics is you really only need to do two things. The first is to experience the unexpected, and the second is to use your senses differently. Here are just a few neurobic exercises to try once in a while. Close your eyes while you're taking a shower for a few seconds. Get dressed with your eyes closed. You might want to lay your clothes out first. Brush your teeth and your hair with your non-dominant hand. Listen to chosen specific music while smelling something particular. It sounds complicated, but it's not. The idea is to use your sense of hearing and your sense of smell in different ways and associations. If you wear a watch, wear it on the opposite wrist, or even upside down. Sit in a different chair than you usually do, or face in a different direction. Read a book out loud, or have someone read it to you. Easy one is to take a new route, whether you're just walking down the hallway at home or driving a car, going the same place but a different way. And if you're a bit too lazy to do any of these, try just breathing. Oxygen appears to enhance our memory. I'm Jay Elias. Thank you for watching this episode of Live and Learn. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to your joining me again for another program designed to enhance and encourage your personal wellness and awareness. Until then, remember, it's never too late to learn. And in closing, I'd like to leave you with the words of the wonderful late poet Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.